welcome to Bravo Team, our second G.I Joe show looking at all the secondary G.I Joe material. I am your host, Aaron Moss, codenamed Brotherhead. On this show, I'll either be by myself or have other guest hosts joining me, looking at all the G.I Joe material out there. We'll be covering things like the toys, the Action Force comic, the European Missions comic, the movies, G.I Joe Renegades, or anything else that is not G.I Joe, a Real American Hero comic, or the 80s cartoon. Come, join us on our mission to stop Cobra from taking over the world. Yo, Joe. Hello, everybody. Brotherhead here, and we're back with another episode of Bravo Team. This time, we're looking at the yearbook, which followed it along with the issues we're actually covering on the show. But before I get to that point, let's go ahead and bring in my guests. First up, we have my friend from here in California, Kevin Reitzel, aka Raider Nerd. Hey, Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Hold on, pausing for audio cue. There we go. All right. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Oh, no, I'm glad to have you. Glad you could join us for this episode of Bravo Team.
Dude, talking yearbook, it's funny was I didn't read a lot of other comics. So I'm excited that I learned what the yearbook really was. It was an annual.
Yeah.
So G.I Joe was like my first comic. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's the annual. I'm like, what's an annual? It's like, that's a yearbook. But so, yeah, it's
referred to as it. In fact, I think when I emailed you guys, I put annual in there. And the next person we introduced is, you've heard of the yearbook? Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Which same thing.
I had to say something about that. Like, these are annual. These are yearbooks.
Yes. But also joining us is our military authenticity expert and artwork guy, Jared Albrick, a.k.a. the Arts Artist. Jared.
Pausing for my audio intro. There. Okay. I am so happy to be back here with you guys. I look forward to talking about the nothing that we read in one story. And of course, I would love to regale you with the history of pizza.
Yeah, I wish we could have got Pat on here because we know how much he loved episode 20 or issue 20.
What's really funny about what you just said, Jared, was that I actually had some leftover 7-Eleven pizza this morning from the other night, and I wanted to finish it off before I started this podcast. And I was going through this one, and I got your joke because I didn't realize I was eating pizza while reading that episode.
It's to a new level right there.
Very nice.
Like you're literally eating it, you're reading the story, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. I'm like,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
And I didn't see the guy with the Pepsi, so there you go.
And also joining us from the land down under, we have David Finn.
Hello,
hey,
hello. Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Dave, have you sent my Tin Tams to me yet? I ran out of the ones last
my friend. I have not. I've been a little bit busy. New child, running the empire that is Signal of Doom. Takes a lot of my time. You are on my schedule. Here I am. I'm here for Baroness's red lingerie.
And the funny part about it was pre-show, before David joined us on the, in the chat and all that, we were talking, and I think Jared had mentioned that, got to have David here because we were talking about Baroness and her lingerie. So,
oh yeah, hell yeah.
I don't know why David has monopoly on that, but okay.
Yeah, no, Kevin.
Sometimes you just let him have something.
I can see the envy creeping in. That's okay. She can be shared around.
And hello to everyone out there in YouTube and wherever you're watching this. Glad you're here. Go ahead and throw your messages or your thoughts in the chat, and I can read them off on the air. I'd love to hear from you guys. But like I say, this is Bravo Team, and this month we're looking at yearbook number 3. There we are. I've got 2 different issues of it. I've got the original, and then I've got the more recent reprint that IDW did.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Just because I have an addiction. But that's another story entirely. But yes, we are here talking about some yearbook So again, this here ties into the issue 56, led into issue 57, and this issue. Issue 57, as we talked about, had Scarlet and Flint going to Scotland to get the Terrordrome plans and information from Castle Destro, and they had to fight Major Blood, and it was a whole big show. So
I've got a question. Was Snake Eyes captured actually in the comics, or was this just like a cold open?
No, he was captured in 50 something.
All right, okay. Right. I must admit I'd forgotten that. I just thought this was a cold open that just had that as the start of the story.
They did that too just now. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was episode. I think it was issue 55.
Right. Okay.
56 somewhere in there.
I think it's 5. I'm pretty sure. I'm looking at my book.
But it's cool that you could read this and it could just be the cold open, if you know what I mean. Like
right.
you could read this alone and just go, that's the setup for the story.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. One issue, because 54, if I'm not mistaken, was when he was disguised as Flint and he let himself be captured to infiltrate Cobra Island and the Terrordrome.
That disguise would break down if he was ever asked a question.
Well, that's why they captured him. They were paying him to the brainwave machine, trying to get information. He's holding him off, and like, well, he's not talking. Yeah. And one of the tweets made a comment. This is different because Flint usually can't shut up. Now he won't say a damn thing. And then Stalker led a team in to rescue him. Got injured, and Snake Eyes sacrificed himself, stayed behind so they could get Stalker out.
Right. Okay.
And this follows up from that.
Gotcha. You're an encyclopedia.
Sometimes that's what I'm full of useless knowledge. Nerd. Yeah.
I think all of us on this call could probably fall in that category. Unfortunately, even you, Kevin, right in nerd. Yeah.
So again, in the chat, let me know what you think about this issue, the cover, and all that. The cover of this one, again, as I said, I've got 2 different copies of this. The original, as me and Kevin are holding up, we have a Snake Eye strapped to a machine, which we know from inside is the brainwave scanner. Scarlet and Storm Shadow are in front of him fighting to save his life. And the back side of the cover has Destro, Dr. Mindbender and some Hot Woman Baroness, along with a lot of ninjas behind them running at the attack to attack our heroes.
Could the brainwave scanner be used for good? Like if you're trying to recall a certain memory that you really enjoyed, like you wanted to go back to the 80s and remember all the times that you went back to buy G.I. Joe comics, but you can't remember all of them.
I need a brainwave scanner.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
Think about that, people.
It could be, yes. So again, this is the 3rd yearbook they've done. Again, as we talked about it's interchangeable with annuals, and sometimes I do refer to it as an annual, but
don't ever do that again.
No, I try not to. But again, I'm old or forgetful, and things blurred in my head, and
I see behind the scenes now. I messaged Aaron and I was like, very genuinely, I was like, is the yearbook and the annual the same? And he was like, yeah. And now I'm understanding that he was just catching rights and lefts from Kevin. And I was all being sweet and nice behind the scene.
And I'm like, no, it's a yearbook. It's not an annual.
He's just flaming on the keyboard. Oh, how dare you!
You idiot! Give up your show. Quit podcasting. Go home. Give up comics. You moron! What do you mean?
I was just worried that there were yearbooks and annuals, and I was like, is there annuals I don't know about?
Yeah, no, I was really concerned I'd read the wrong thing. To be honest, I was like double checking the cover.
Aaron has learned a valuable lesson this last few days. Just so we're good.
Yes. So again, like I said, there's 2 different covers of this one. There's 2 different. There was this, and then IDW reprinted all the annuals more recently. And I'm assuming it's reprinted in the complete collection number 5. Yeah,
6. It's in 6. Yep.
So I figured it was in there because it's complete, and I believe it's going to be. I know who has it now. Let's say Dreamwave. That's not it.
Skybound.
Thank you. Skybound is doing the card back compendium, whatever, that's got the entire 155 issue run plus all the special missions and most of the yearbooks. They skipped the first one because it was a reprint, but so I'm sure it's reprinted in the book coming out. Yes, sir.
Can one of you cool guys who has the original show me the back cover, because that is not included in the okay, very cool. Okay, yeah, I remember that image now. Yeah, with the ninjas flying up in the back. I remember that now. Okay, yeah. Not That's included cool. in the IDW.
Okay,
they look a little bit like Frank Miller style ninjas.
I was thinking that same thing.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but now that you mention it,
it's very Frank Miller.
It is very much Frank Miller. So let's go and talk about it. So again, this has got 2 stories in it. Plus, it talks about the Joes on television, some gallery of covers, the adventure continues, and some pinups. So the first story, like I said, it's a continuation of the story from issue 56. In fact, the last episode of the show, it was Brad that caught the air that they had Scarlett's talking about how she got the information from Destro. And I sent a message I've had on the Facebook group that actually that mistake is covered in letter column for issue number 63. So we will talk about that when we get there. But this is another reason why it couldn't have been Scarlett, because at that time Scarlett was busy doing this mission.
Oh, Brad and his I read the words and I follow the storylines. That's you, Brad. I know you're listening. I'm doing my impression of you, Brad.
Meanwhile, I forgot he even got captured. Good work, Dave.
Mister. I've got every movie novelized behind me, dude.
Well, the lesson here is don't miss out on a recording, Brad. We will be ruthless.
He's not to be ruthless when I am here. Oh, Kevin. No. But yeah, so this and also it's a kind of a spiritual successor to issue 21, as he talked about. Again, issue 21 was the silent issue where Snake Eyes broke into free Scarlet. Now Snake Eyes has been captured, so Scarlet and Storm Shadow is breaking into the Cobra Consolidate to free her.
Yep.
Well, again, and it's a silent issue. Well, not issue, but a silent story. Basically, the story goes that the Cobra helicopter is bringing Snake Eyes in after being captured back in issue 56, I think we decided. Somewhere along there. And we see Scarlett's getting a picture of Snake Eyes being taken in. She goes to the woods where Snake Eyes used to live, who currently is Storm Shadow, and Timber's hanging out there. She shows him a picture of Snake Eyes being captured. We cut to the Cobra Consolidate, where Dr. Mindbender has Snake Eyes on the Brainwave scanner from the cover.
What's it? Yep. Is it Consulate? Is that how you say it, or
Consulate?
Jared, Consulate.
Consulate.
I'm just used to podcasting with Pat, so I just let it go. But yeah, it's Consulate.
I wasn't sure because I was just like, yeah.
Consulate. What did I say? I probably mispronounced it. I don't even notice these things.
I think you're okay. Yeah, Consulate. Yep.
But anyway, sorry to interrupt you. So yeah,
go ahead, please. And we're getting memories of flashbacks in the memory scan of Snake Eyes' time in Vietnam, whatever how you pronounce it. We get an image of Hawk approaching Snake Eyes when he gets home, finding out that his mom and dad and sister have died. We see some ninjas. We see Snake Eyes and Scarlet. Snake Eyes and Stalker. A lot of S's.
And a great image of Baroness just below that as well, actually.
Yes, we get the Baroness of it. I'm sure Dave's got this blown up on his wall at home. And
this is a good one.
We got Baroness watching this. Meanwhile, we have this old man go walking through a subway. These guys have to mug him. We find out it's our buddy Storm Shadow as he puts their mohawks and their funky hairs down to side.
He gives them new haircuts, basically.
Yes, he gives them a new haircut. As he goes into the back way. Meanwhile, a cleaning lady, who we can tell is Scarlet because one of the scenes focuses on, or one of the panels focuses on the throwing star hidden in her under her shawl. Back while Storm Shadow's sneaking in, he kills a couple of, I'm assuming these are Cobra eels of some sort that were sneaking in the water. We see some more scenes with Snake Eyes on this brainwave scanner. We have.
We should point out too that it says memory scan, random sample, subject actively suppressing memory visualization.
Yes.
And
Good point.
Snake Eyes is showing all these old memories to block what they're actually trying to get. Again, it's a silent issue. We don't quite know what they're going for, but through the captioning of, like Kevin just mentioned, we know that he's blocking something they're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Back to the beginning of the front office of the Cobra Consulate. They get an intruder armed notice from the old lady, who is Scarlet. As they point their guns at her, Baroness rips off her wig, and out of the cleaning canister she has there, timber comes flying out.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Back underneath, Storm Shadow faces off the Red Ninjas and does what he does best, takes them all out.
I love how they're just hanging like bats.
Yeah, it's very nice. And then we get back to the main where Snake Eyes has I believe that's the Hardmaster. And the subject is in a Zen Zen trance. Complete brain block in effect.
Mm-hmm.
Alpha wave override. As he makes the brainwave scanner computers explode in Mindbender's face. As he escapes, he's tackled by Cobra agents. Snake Eyes continues his... Snake Eyes, try that again. Storm Shadow continues his infiltration, taking out more Cobras. Meanwhile, we get Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes back to back against all these ninjas. Again, they leap over.
Great shots.
Yes, very much so. They leave some explosives behind as Snake Eye blows them to Kingdom Come.
Mm-hmm.
As they try to make their getaway, they get to the front door, which is surrounded by Cobra guards. Baroness shows up, points her guns at both of our heroes, marches them out the front door. Meanwhile, Dr. Mindbender is running to the fire stairs, and he finds the Baroness, which we'll let Dave talk about in depth. Sorry, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin.
Good
Baroness
work,
and guards wrapped up, pretty as a bow, and we get Scarlet pulling off a wig and the glasses as they walk away. And that is the first string. So let's get some thoughts on this. Kevin, I've got you up on the main screen. Let's get your thoughts first. What are your thoughts on this story?
You know, I was trying to remember when the next silent issue was, and I had forgotten that was in G.I. Joe Yearbook number 3. So when I went to revisit this, which I was excited that this was on the docket for this episode, I was like, this is the other one. And what I like about it, too, is that obviously it's kind of a reverse of what happened in the silent interlude issue, where it's Snake Eyes that is getting rescued. And I always thought this was kind of a funny picture here where he's hanging, Ewoks about to eat you type of thing going on there. And it looks like he's voluntarily hanging on to the wooden thing there instead of like having his arms around there. I always thought that was kind of funny. But and I like this because it's a throwback to that, but then now you're kind of in this new era of Cobra that they have this really awesome building in I'm guessing New York City that they own and run there. I always kind of feel like it's like you can't go in there. It's like it's really secretive. You have to be invited in there, kind of like Scientologists actually. But I also thought too, I thought it was kind of funny. It was clever how they put like the credits for the who wrote and what on the building next door to it. And I would love for someone just to do that down in New York somewhere, like next to a big building. Just write story, Larry Hama, pencils, Ron Wagner, and then
real quick, I
artwork, about Mike Zeck.
I forgot about that. The story was by Larry Hama. The pencils are Ron Wagner. Inks was Kim DeMolder, which we had a discussion about last episode, I think it was, or maybe it was 50, I forget what it was now. Colors, Max Scheel, editor Bob Harris, and editor-in-chief Jim Shooter.
There's a lot to talk about when it comes to different images on this book here. Obviously, I love it when you get the Storm Shadow in disguise on the subway, and you get kind of sucked into all of the artwork or stuff that's on the subways there. And I was just reminded of that because Beat Street came out 40 years ago with all the other breakdancing movies, and one of the subplots about Beat Street is trying to find the elusive new freshly painted or new train to do graffiti on.
Right.
And other than doing breakdancing everywhere. But yeah, that I was reminded me of that. But there's just what I really like about, okay, full disclosure, I don't read books anymore. I just don't have the time for them. I don't have the patience for them. I'm visually and audibly entertained. That's my life right now. But comics, the G.I. Joe comics, though, I'm going to read these things. But what's really interesting about reading these particular comics that have no words in them, you have to be careful not to gloss over each panel like you can in other comics when you're reading, because there's so much detail put into all of these panels with these silent interlude type issues. And it's just another genius way of telling a story is with a visual medium and throwing in all these other details, like whether it's Storm Shadow noticing as he's, sneaking into the bottom of this Cobra Consulate tower here, and there's ninjas that just happen to be hanging around upside down like bats. Like, were they expecting them? Or are they guarding? So there's a lot of questions you're kind of asking about all of this. And, when you look at like the fighting scenes too, just great done with panels of like what happens in each strike and what he has to do to parry, and how he's cleverly knocking down certain things to explode certain things and to use things around him to get through these Cobra these Cobra ninjas and stuff, and little scenes like this too, when Snake Eyes releases himself from the brainwave scanner. It's just, I'm not going to go into details on all the panels right now, but my main point being is that there's just a lot of information in each of these panels where there's no dialogue. And it's going to be a tough job to pick your favorite panel here, but not for me. But yeah, that first story is just great. What a great way to open up a G.I. Joe yearbook.
Very much so. And then we'll move on to Jared. I never realized I didn't pull that down.
I probably should have read
this.
No, but there wasn't any words to read. So
see what you did there.
We're gonna be okay. Basically echo most of the things that the distinguished gentleman named Kevin said. One of the best things about this book to me, and coming back to it for this recording, was this is one of those books where I don't think I had read it since 1980. What was it, 7, 6, something like that? You probably said, and I didn't pay attention.
87, I think.
Yeah, 87. And so when I popped up, took this here collection off the shelf and opened up, and I was it's one of those like, oh yeah, I remember this. So it was a real nostalgia flood, which was great. The things I would just like to underline, and a lot of which Kevin had mentioned, just first of all, just that cover. The cover is incredible. It's Betty Betty Zek Betty Betty Zek Betty Zek Zek Betty Betty Zek, as God intended, right? And it's gorgeous, and it's wonderful, and it's got basically Snake Eyes' family on it, with Stalker missing, really, and maybe Hawk. But that is a cool cover. And just going through this, and I'd forgotten it had a silent issue in it, which obviously harkened back, like you said, to 21. It's just Hama doing Hama things, just telling this very exciting story. And you could tell he wanted to bring back that silent issue on, because why else do you put him fighting red ninjas, right? Why else do you do that? I don't know if we've covered this or not, but the Baroness ends up tied up wearing red lingerie.
I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to come up again or not.
There will be a segment on that.
Oh, my bad.
There'll be questions.
There'll be questions. There'll be answers. But no, I really can't say much more than what Kevin said, other than A, Beat Street rules, and B, Ron Wagner just did a really great job, because he had to carry all the storytelling elements. I'm sure he got plenty of direction and help from Larry, but he had to carry the whole thing. And what a wonderful job he did. And I will leave the rest for our friend from down under.
And real quick, I did forget, because again, I'm getting old and slow, and I was up late last night playing D&D with my son, and had French toast for breakfast with him, and ran home and took a shower and got on. And so I didn't have everything prepared like I normally do. I forgot to mention that the cover date on this was March of 1987. The on sale date was November the 25th, 1986. The cover price was $1.50. And as I mentioned, the editor was Bob Harris. And yes, the cover was done by some guy's name, Mike Zeke. Mike Zeke, baby. Who
Baby, Zach, baby, Zach, baby, Zach, baby, Zach, baby, Zach. There, all right. I did my part.
I think they have a restraining order on one member of our party. So,
hey,
wow.
Anyways, Dave, thoughts on the silent story?
Okay, first time I read it was last night. Wasn't even aware that there'd be a silent issue. I love a silent issue. So what a pleasure to read, firstly. I think the artwork was excellent. I would love to know, and maybe it's out there, if Larry wrote like full script for this. Maybe not, because probably you have to give a lot of space to the artist. But actually, the thing about it is, I've actually weirdly been reading quite a lot of comics over the last couple of weeks, more than normal. And it was a pleasure to take the brain out from reading dialogue. And I think, Kevin, you mentioned like not skipping over stuff, because I am guilty of that, especially when I have to review stuff for the show. You sort of get into that mode where you're reading the text and you are looking at the pictures, but you're not exactly studying them. Whereas with this, you kind of have to, because otherwise you just totally miss what's going on. And I think it's wonderful how the full story is told. Really, the only parts that I felt were padding's not even the right word, but the Storm Shadow stuff, although excellent, it felt like the thing that was probably least essential. But the stuff with Scarlet creeping in, along with how I love the way they still tell a story with Snake Eyes, even though he's literally kind of caught and captured under the machine. You're still getting with the visuals from the Mind Machine, whatever it's called. The I forget what's it called.
The brainwave scanner.
The brainwave scanner, yeah. I love the image of Timber coming out of the the whatever it is, the mop thing that she's got, the vacuum. Just excellent overall, and I'm just looking at it now. Just a really, really great sequence. I mean, there's just honestly fantastic artwork by Ron Wagner. You've got to say it again, and then it all winds up. And to be honest, I'm proud of myself, because the first image of Scarlet dressed as the old woman, I realized straight away. I was like, yeah, that's definitely Scarlet. And then the ending with the little twist completely got me. And then I was like, yeah, lovely. And literally lovely looking at Baroness there. And then Scarlet takes off the wig and the glasses, and yeah, everyone's happy and they're just walking away. Happy ending. So fantastic. And also, just on another note, I meant to mention this at the start of the show. I don't know if listeners are aware, but Larry Hama is currently running a Kickstarter for a new project he has. I think it's called Mounties versus Werewolves. And he mentions in there that he doesn't receive royalties from the IDW or, the reprints, basically. So Marvel and IDW and all that stuff. So he was just pointing people who might be G.I. Joe fans and fans of him to, he's got this latest Kickstarter, which is up there on his page, and maybe support Larry. If you like these comics, he's the guy who wrote them all. I thought I might mention that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I didn't think to mention that. But yeah, I got a link on our Facebook group for that. So yeah, definitely check that out. I know Larry has said on his, that yes, he's not getting royalties, but he said that Skybound's treating him very nicely.
That's good.
Going above and beyond for him because they recognize what he's done. And yeah, he's not. A lot of people when they talk about, they don't get royalties, they're complaining, well, they did me wrong or whatever. Larry's like, no, I knew, I'm an adult. I knew what the hell I was doing. I was a work for hire. I know what I signed on for. So
with that said, I still think the treatment's egregious. Like by the big two in general, two creators, of which he is one. So I mean, I'm glad he has a perspective, but no, I still feel it's borderline so shady how they treat the big two treat their creators. Like, it's ridiculous. Like,
Skybound's like, here's a coupon for 10% off the compendiums, Larry.
yeah, exactly. Look, I mean, they've probably if they've thrown him some cash, I'm so glad, because he deserves it. Like, it's ridiculous, you know.
But as Dave said, if you are a fan of Larry's work, definitely go to check out his Kickstarter and back, because
and it looks like so much fun. Mounties versus werewolves. Like, apparently he's been working on it for a few years, and he's a busy guy. Let me tell you, Larry Armour is still a very busy guy to this day. You know. So,
and as I posted on the Facebook group, he is having some problems with muscular issues or whatever it is, and
I think eyesight as well, even maybe. You know.
So I mean, he definitely. And I'm sure he's got a couple bucks saved, but he definitely can use all the help we can give him. So if you can afford to, definitely check out his Kickstarter and, help him out, and you get some great work out of it. So
maybe buy one less classified this month, guys, and throw that towards Larry Armour. There you go.
But as far as my thoughts, you guys have pretty much summed up, it's a great story. And it takes a lot of work, because if the artist isn't top notch, trying to tell a story without dialogue can be problematic.
Some of the guys working today, some of the guys and girls working today would struggle with something like this. Honestly, they need all the help they can get. Jesus.
Yeah. And so, if anyone happens to catch Larry at one of the cons he's at, I don't get a chance to go, but I know he's going to be at some. Maybe someone can ask him how he did the scripts. If he did it, Marvel style or full scripts or however he did that.
Are we going to give thoughts on the covers and back covers?
I forgot to do that. We'll do that after we finish the story here. Okay. Yes, I forgot to do the covers.
Kevin, keeping us on our toes. Good to see Kevin. Good work.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. There were some great images in this story. I do like. We last saw him in issue 50. I think it was 56, strapped to the pole, being led through the jungle. He's still strapped to the pole, being led through the Cobra Consulate, whatever it is.
Aren't we all strapped to the pole in some way at some point?
Sometimes, yes. And the way he uses his ninja techniques to block the brainwave scanner to keep them from getting actual information. And again, as I think someone's mentioned, I'm surprised Dave didn't go more discussion about it. Baroness in the red.
Oh yeah. Well, I feel that it's been covered.
Are we having that discussion now, or are we waiting? I'm trying to figure that out.
I don't. We're going to do it. We'll cover it now and have a discussion about it. I mean, because
I'll say this: she's got a great body and she's got a great taste in lingerie. I mean, I'll say that for her right now.
Very much so, yes.
Some people say she's evil. I think she's just misunderstood.
She's not bad. She's drawn that way. But anyways, and I do remember that this silent issues in here, or silent stories in here. This was one of the first Actually, this is the first yearbook I picked up off the stand. I started collecting the comics right after this came out. So I think it was still on the stand when I went looking for back issues, and it was there. So I picked it up.
And what a lot of fun it was back in the day when you got the extra, the annual or the special or whatever. You know what I mean? On top of your regular monthly comic, you were just like, and sometimes maybe if you're a young guy with not much cash, it was almost a bit of a burden too. You're like, oh great, now they're stinging me for more. I wasn't anticipating this expenditure. But
two issues. But so we talked about this first story for the most part. Let's go a little more in depth. Baroness in red lingerie. Anyone want to tackle some thoughts on that?
The real question is when it's revealed that it's Scarlet and she takes off the glasses and the wig. Do you think Snake Eyes was like, "Hey, hold on to that glasses and wig"?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
You think the two of them were a little disappointed when it's still Scarlet, which is good, but
okay, so it's funny you say that, Jared, because this is a deep cut for you Star Wars fans. If you listen to if you guys remember the NPR radio editions of the original Star Wars trilogy, they did, I think in 80, they did the original Star Wars, and then soon after they did Empire Strikes Back. But back in the 90s, they went and finished out the trilogy with Return of the Jedi. And there's a scene that is in the audio radio drama after Han gets rescued. They're in the Millennium Falcon, And Han goes to Leia, so are you going to keep that outfit? And then Leia says, we'll see. I got a flashback to that when you just said that.
Yeah, wow, that's funny.
Well, and you know what? She came in dressed as an old lady. So I'm pretty sure she carried this wig in with her. So I think it's part of her stash is this wig anyway. So yeah, I'm sure that she uses it quite.
I just think she got tired of being. She got tired of the Baroness impersonating her on the cartoons. You know, maybe that's
my turn.
And must be very similar body shapes because Baroness's outfit doesn't leave much to the imagination normally, like when she's in the black leather.
She's got garter belts on, guys. Come on. She's got a red bra, red panties, and a garter belt on. I want to know what happens with that conversation with the Cobra Troopers that are in there with her.
Oh, I'm
what's
sure.
What's going on there? What's
I'm very thankful this is before smartphone technology.
And what I find funny too is that they already had masks on, and then it looks like they got gagged over the masks.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna be that guy. My only problem with this panel is that it didn't take up the whole page.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, there is that. Yes,
Hot.
It must have been when I saw it first. The first thing was I was like, "Oh, Larry, you sly dog," you know. Like, that was my first thought. So you know,
was there a meeting about that in the office? You know, and he's like writing, going, "Oh wait, hold on, Larry, you're writing that the Baroness is in her underwear, tied up. What's she wearing?"
I like the way she's.
Does Larry sip his coffee and go, "Well, you know, I think she's in red. I'm just gonna go with that."
Yeah, I think so. Now, great stuff,
Jared. You're too quiet, man. You are way too quiet about that.
I'm censoring myself.
Is Mrs. Yartzell arsed around? He's just trying to keep quiet. So
I feel like the Key and Peele skit where Obama has his anger translator. I feel like I'm Jared's horny translator. I don't know.
I tell you what was also funny is after all the huge escape attempt from Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, it literally just ends with them just facing a ton of rifles being pointed at them. Like after all their escapades, they're just totally still captured, which is actually ironic. And then
I still think they could have escaped even without Scarlet's. Scarlet's made it so it was less bloodshed.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it is Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. So,
so is the Cobra Consulate, is it a tourist attraction? People knowing what it is? I mean, are like nowadays would people out there be taking selfies and Cobra Troopers or, maybe
sure.
more or what? Yeah, they're like shooing them away, but maybe they're wearing like 3-piece suits. I don't know. What do you think's going on outside the Cobra Consulate? I mean, is it like, are they roped off, like you can't walk too close?
It'd be one of those scenarios where there'd be a ton of security you wouldn't see, and then there would be the security you do see. Do you know what I mean? Like,
like snipers across the other side of the building they secretly bought that no one knows about,
I mean, if you were stupid enough to try to launch some sort of attack, you'd be killed, but it would look more innocuous than it really is, because I think that they would be on constant state of alert knowing these guys.
There's also something about this panel, as we see that we're talking about, of course, with the Baroness getting, captured there. Let's take a look at Timber. Look how happy he looks. Both his best buddies are together. Yep. He's wagging his tail. I mean, I don't know if that was something I never noticed the first time that I quote read this. And I'm looking down now that I'm like, really in tune to how, pets are feeling. I just love that. I love that, and then I love the scene too when Timber jumps out of the trash container to scare, of course, the Baroness. I thought that was a great scene right there. They're like,
I love that scene. I love that scene, man.
Like the American Werewolf at the Cobra Consulate. There you go.
And real quick, just for a little treat, here is the reprint version I have. A neat, cleaner version of Baroness.
So you're telling me there's a glossy version?
Yes, there is a glossy version.
No, he's telling you there was a glossy version.
No, actually, both my copies are now glossy. For entirely. Anyways, yes.
Jared's just waiting for his moment.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's it for me, everybody. I'll catch you in the next episode.
That's the only reason Jared's here.
Love it.
Any other thoughts on this first story?
10 out of 10. There you go.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Have we covered Baroness in the laundry enough yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the shotgun. Dr. Mindbender, I think, he's like, what a tragedy of court, but also how nice is this?
What's interesting too is that same panel. I mean, these are the things that you will miss if you don't pay attention with the famous Baroness scene. Is Dr. Mindbender coming out of the door of the fire stairs, and it's got that angled door like the whole building is, and then there's like this random little cobra wrapped around a globe thing there. You know, I'm thinking like I would steal that.
Yeah.
Put it on my desk, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that's one big metal or stone thing. I'm sure it's part of the base too. Good luck sneaking that in your back pocket.
And is the New York Fire Department, when they're going to Cobra Consult, are they going, wow, so this is what it looks like?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, got to get the fire. Sorry.
Crap.
Great story though. It's just some of the best visual storytelling I have seen. And it's just, you know, when you have like your top 3 Joes, or within the top 5 at least, maybe 10 if you're an idiot, in a story where they're rescuing one of their comrades and they're doing it in really good G.I. Joe storytelling ways.
Yep.
Hell, God damn it, Larry. Thank you. Just thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Larry.
Yeah, no, Larry did, as we say every month, he did a fantastic job on this whole thing. So very much so.
Yeah. No, he was cooking.
I was trying to realize too, and I maybe you might be able to answer this question seriously, Jared. There is no ads in this annual. And that caught me off guard because, I mean, they're pretty much promoting themselves with the Joes on television, but why does an annual get away from not using ads as opposed to a regular comic?
Probably 2 reasons in this case, and this is conjecture. I wasn't there. But reason number 1, I want to say cover price at this time was 75 cents. This was double the price, so that will absorb some of that. And this is really where my conjecture comes in. I suspect you kind of already know the answer because we did get that couple of pages about what's coming up for the cartoon, which leads me to believe that I'm betting that whatever ad revenue wasn't covered by the extra 75 cents that maybe had to make up, I'm betting Hasbro just wrote a check. I'm betting Hasbro was like, hey, let's put this article in here about the cartoon because they're going to get all the ad revenue from the cartoon. The cartoon is like hugely popular. They want to keep that going. So that is my guess. My guess is they were like, okay, of course we'll double the price. As I think Dave mentioned earlier on, that happened a lot with annuals anyway. But I got that feeling that maybe Hasbro came in and was like, hey, we'll foot the bill for this one. Just put that article in there about what's coming up.
And yeah, I think it's probably a good guess because that's. But before we get to that article, if we're done talking about Baroness and Reginald, I mean, if we're done talking about the story,
you know what? I do have one question. I have a trivia question for the group,
Jared,
because you notice that Snake Eyes on the brainwave scanner, he locked it out this time with the Zen, the picture, like he got in his Zen, he just froze it there. Now, who remembers what image he locked it out with last time?
Oh,
I have no idea. Was it Timber?
It was Baroness and Red Laundry. No,
I was going to say.
I wasn't.
Scarlet.
What do you got?
Yeah, wasn't it Scarlet?
It was. You know what?
I was thinking it was the same guy. You
know what it was? It was an apple.
An apple.
Really?
He just all he thought about was an apple last time. I thought that's interesting. He shifted gears now from an apple
because she was probably wearing apple bottom jeans. So
and boots with the fur.
Guys, how funny if like they'd done the brainwave scan, it was just him banging Scarlet.
And the Cobra Troopers are just here snacking on popcorn, watching.
Yeah, there's just this uncomfortable silence while everyone's just watching the brainwave scanner.
So yeah, probably alternated between him being in Scarlet and him being in Scarlet dressed as the Baroness.
Yeah.
The first time he got hooked up to it, it wasn't Mindbender though, wasn't it? Wasn't it like Dr. Venom? The first time?
Yes, Venom. Yeah,
I think it was. Anyway,
Venom,
back then he froze it on an apple.
Cool.
Maybe it was, yeah, because it was before Mindbender. So, yeah, more than likely it was. I would have to go back and look.
I think it was back then. Yeah, my memory. I'm getting old. Yo, Joe.
But yeah, so let's go ahead and jump to the cover real quick, which I kind of skimmed over. We talked about the cover. Again, we have pulled up full screen.
Are we going to do like we're going to include our vote for front and back? Give it one total score?
Yeah, so the front, as I said, is Snake Eyes strapped to the machine, Scarlet and Storm Shadow defending him. In the back, we have Baroness. Oh, I'm assuming her red laundry is underneath that outfit with Dr. Mindbender with a bunch of ninjas behind them. Let's get some more thoughts on this. Again, this was by Zek and Beatty.
Cool.
So let's get some thoughts on this. Anyways, Kevin, thoughts on the cover, and which one do you like better, the front or the back?
The front definitely, but the back. My only issue with the back covers is the ninjas are a little too non-Cobra-ish. I feel like they're more cartoony. I'm usually used to like Red Ninjas or something like that. Not like these kind of feel more like, Foot Klansmen, from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so to speak.
Right.
But great representation, the back though, of Mindbender and the Baroness. It's just really, really well done with the coloring on them and just the look of intensity on them as well. But the front cover is what it's all about. This is one of those that if I see, I would definitely pick it up from a comic bin. And I would even consider a poster of that or a T-shirt of that, because even though this particular scene didn't take place, because by the time they got together, they were fighting. It gives you a great representation of what you're about to see.
Yes.
And also, if you hadn't read or watched or looked over the comic, depending on how you want to look at it there, you're like, holy crap, what's going on with Snake Eyes? He's in that damn machine again, But I got to tell you too, I love the outfit that Scarlet is in. It's not as revealing. It's toned down. She looks badass, shooting that submachine gun to the side a little bit. And of course, I love the fact that you're getting Storm Shadow throwing some of those stars as well. It is it is a great cover, wonderful cover. And I give it, what is it? 5 Yojo Colas, right?
Yes.
I'm going to give it 5 Yojo Colas, and I'll give it, some Dreadnought grape juice.
Very nice. And yeah, one comment about the back cover. Yeah, they should have been red ninjas instead of the black suited ones, because that's how they appear in the story. But
yeah,
it is what
that's my only knock on the back.
Yeah, I agree. David, thoughts on this cover? First, which do you like better, the front or the back?
Well, actually, I think both are very good. I prefer the back cover. I have not got it on my copy, but now that I see that you guys have it, I really like it. I'm a big Frank Miller fan, so I like that they're homaging that kind of style of ninja, for a bit of fun almost, really, and then there's nothing wrong at all with Baroness and Dr. Mindbender. But I like both covers. Both are excellent. It's a good advertisement. And if the front cover as well really speaks to, I guess, the story, because like Snake Eyes is, captured, which is a big thing. I mean, because as I said, when I opened it up, I'd forgotten that Snake Eyes was captured in the main story. So I just thought, we're starting here. So yeah, I mean, both are excellent, but personal preference slightly to the back cover. I think for the novelty factor of those ninjas in the background, just thought it looked cool. So 5 out of 5, Yojo Colas, sure.
Very nice.
Why not?
And Mr. Yard Soldier, artist guy. Front or back cover? Guns to your head.
Front. I'll go front. The back is very cool. It's especially to me, since I haven't seen it in years and it wasn't included here in the book. I definitely feel like, this is a lot of Frank Miller influence there. I think we've all agreed on that on the back cover. And then the front one, I mentioned it in my chat earlier. It's dang near perfect.
Can I interrupt you for one quick second about the Frank Miller thing you guys have referenced here? When did The Dark Knight come out? 88, 89?
No, earlier, about 86.
86,
okay. Dark Knight Returns. Yeah.
Okay, so was he famous before that for other artwork, or was this
Ronin and Daredevil?
Daredevil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I just remember the Dark Knight thing. That's where I heard about him, because I didn't read the other comics. So thank you.
He really made a big name because Ronin was kind of his pet project. His big name was he made Daredevil like he's the guy that took Daredevil to the darker place that he's never truly recovered from in comics.
Gotcha.
Like, he's been a little bit darker of a book, and that's mostly Frank.
The reason why I was asking too is because we recently covered what was it? The Spirit, the movie that he directed. From our we did a podcast called Fandom Oblivion, where we bring an older film that's been lost in oblivion, and we decide whether or not it should be brought back into fandom or not. And
it shouldn't be brought back. That's
we agreed it shouldn't, but we wanted to return to that time because that's when Frank Miller was at his power because he was given the reins to direct a film and it didn't do well. So
that was after Sin City and he was so hot. Yeah.
But yeah,
sorry, Jared, go ahead.
Batman Forever should absolutely be brought back in to fandom.
I totally agree.
Agreed. It's right here. It's right here. Yeah. Love Batman.
It's never gone away for me.
Me neither. Just a lot of people poo-poo it, and I'm like, anyway.
I love Batman Forever.
I guess I am the discerning opinion on this one. Then, I don't mind if it stays gone. And
you shut your dirty, you know what?
See you later, Aaron. Been nice knowing you, Aaron.
I will see myself out.
All right. The only thing I'll add about the cover, back to the cover of the yearbook, we already talked about what a great image it is, and I like the way the image is made even more tense by the appearance of the enemy fire impacts all around them. That ratchets its tension up just a little bit more to know that they're catching bullets everywhere and they somehow haven't been hit yet. Of course, it's G.I. Joe, but yeah, I mean it's got it all. It's got the family and it's got there's no denying the Christian iconography of this cover with Snake Eyes in his pose. And I think that adds to its power. It's an image that people look at and go, oh yeah, well, I know that image, right? It's very recognizable in religious circles. And then it's kind of turned on its ear with this whole militaristic, now there's ninjas in it. And this is one of the greatest Joe covers. That's not a cover of a regular issue. It is in league with some of those top tier covers we have talked about. I give it 5 Joe Colas and 2 whatever Destro drinks.
Probably champagne or something.
Yeah, something classy.
Hold on. No. He's Scottish. So it's like maybe Glenmorangie.
Yeah, there you go. It's whatever it is, it's classy. We know that. Yeah.
And a real quick comparison here is the reprint issue of it. A nice cover, but I don't think it holds.
Not as good. Not as good.
No, I like that it's an image from the story.
It's okay, but it's nowhere near as good as the original.
Yes,
right. The fact that they use an image from the story, I think, is really cool. But...
Is it weird now that every time I look at the Baroness, I'm going to think about what she's wearing underneath?
No.
You know what? Normal. I think it would be weird if you didn't.
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Totally agree.
By the way, I was just saying what Jared was thinking because I'm his horny.
Jared's filtering himself. So thank you, Kevin. We need Jared's uninterrupted thoughts. So since he's hiding them out, you can.
I'm going to start a new Twitter. I'm going to be Jared's horny translator.
Feel free, man.
But real quick, go back to Frank Miller. Yeah, the Dark Knight Returns came out in '86, as I think David said. He started writing on Daredevil in May of '79.
I was going to say that, late 70s,
And I guess, he was doing the art and writing for a while, but as he got too much, he gave up the art to Jansen.
Klaus Janson. He was, I believe, Klaus Janson. God, I'm trying to remember. Was his inker for a long time?
He inked the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So he brought in Elektra, and so and that's it. Like like Jared said. Yeah, he's one very much brought Daredevil to the darker roots of Daredevil, and
sure.
And one time he was a great writer. More recent years, but back to this cover. Yeah, no, like you guys, it's a great cover. I like most of you guys. I prefer the front cover, and I also give it 5 out of 5 Joe Colas and an additional 3 grape sodas. Even though Jed Dogs aren't involved in this.
Just had to go one more than me. Fine.
And that's the only reason. I was going to do 2, and then Kevin said 3 or 2. So you know what? it's my show. I'm gonna outdo Kevin. So 3.
So,
But no, great cover. And yeah, I like the other cover from the reprint because it does show a story or something from the inside of the actual issue. But and again, I don't know how much of it this is a better cover or how much of it is nostalgic because again, and this is the same issue I had since I bought it, and like the edges are a little dinged up around it, but because I've read it several times, and again, this is one of the stories I do remember when I think about the yearbook. So
you know what? It's funny you say that, Aaron, and I may have shared this story a long time ago. This room right here where I'm podcasting from is the garage of the house that I live in. And it's the house that I grew up in. And I moved back here to be with my dad because my mom passed away back in 2010 and, help my dad and stuff. But when I moved away for 20 years, I had all of these G.I. Joe comics in a long box, but I was smart enough to put like a trash bag around them in case it rained, leaked or whatever. What happened is part of this building burnt and a lot of the stuff that got destroyed here and a lot of my old toys got destroyed, but my comics survived. When I opened up the long box, all my G.I. Joe comics were in there, including this particular one. And I had them all individually bagged, but there was a little bit of soot on the top of all of them. So all I had to do was just rebag these things. But this particular comic survived the fire that this garage endured back then.
Wow.
And so when you said that, it brought back that memory that I had originally. This is one of my original purchases. Was this one right here, and I was smart enough to take care of them later. Some of them I had to go back and rebuy because I didn't take care of them and stuff.
Roll it up in your back pocket.
I was going to say, if they had been rolled in his back pocket, they would have not been in the fire.
I know, right? Yeah.
What is that? But again, as many I'm sure Kevin had, that's a lot of back pockets.
That is a lot of. You need those big baggy jeans from like the early 2000s.
I'm still impressed you guys have comics from like the 80s that you just still have. Like, I'm just terrible. I had hundreds of 2000 AD Judge Redds. They're lost. They missed the time.
Yeah,
I've rebought them all. Like,
I feel like there's a lot of G.I. Joes out there. Like about 20 years ago, it was easy to find a lot of these back issues, with the exception of a couple of them. Obviously the original number 2 and 1 and 21 and stuff like that. And I would find myself if my old one was a little dinged up, or I'd buy, not a newer version, but an original newer version that was in better shape. And I wanted to make sure, and that's why I have several copies of some of them, but there's still a lot I only have one copy of. But it seemed like now as the G.I. Joe fandom has gotten bigger, it's getting a little harder to find certain issues like these yearbooks.
Yeah.
Yep. So the next segment in the book, it talks about Joes on television. As Jared talked about, I believe this is probably where their money for this issue came in, besides the higher price tag. Yeah, I'm sure. Because again, the comic and the cartoon were two separate creatures.
Yes.
But Kevin's got it up, so we'll focus on Kevin for those viewing it at YouTube land.
I'm going to also stay on me because I'm going to turn the page. But yeah, you can see that I read this article today. It's very fascinating. And continues to the next page where it ends, and then you start getting the pinup pictures of the G.I. Joe characters, the first one being Lady J.
So as I mentioned, after I talked about the cover finally, this issue came out in November of 86, and they talk about the new season of G.I. Joe, which is season 2, which came out on September of 1986. And basically this article, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but definitely if you have the yearbook, definitely read it.
Can I highlight a couple of paragraphs specifically right down here next to this picture that I found very funny?
Give me 1 second. I'll pass it over to you. So basically it talks about the 5-episode Arise, Spencer, Arise, and it gives a little bit of a brief history about the show. It came out in 82. And then it goes in and talks about the new characters for the new season. So I'm going to pass it over to Kevin.
So it's great because they do little blurbs about the new characters that are coming out. And there's like one here. It says Lowlight is the Joe sniper. He is tight-lipped, withdrawn, very unsociable. He was badly mistreated by his father when he was growing up. If Lowlight were a Cobra, he'd fit right in. But as a Joe, Lowlight is pretty unusual. Then it gets kind of funny. It says Mainframe is one of the oldest active Joes. He is with them because he's a top flight computer expert who hates his bite-filled life and would love to throw it all away for a chance at combat. Was that ever a thing anywhere that Mainframe was the oldest G.I. Joe around? Do you guys remember this at all?
I want to episode somewhere, but I don't recall if I'm thinking about it from here or if they did mention it somewhere. I know in issue 58 that it hasn't been released to the audience yet, but we talked about it. Dusty did make mention that Mainframe is an old.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. It was all about sort of Dusty being like, he's not who he seems to be. He has a lot of history
about himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk about but he's still, and that's how you can tell the good ones, because he doesn't need to brag about what he can do. That little idiot Rashid or Rashad or whatever his name was talking bad about him, and we all wanted to smack him for.
The last thing I wanted to mention was dial tone, the description of dial tone, which I thought was kind of funny. And I'm like, oh man, dial tone is their communications expert who barely made the Joe's ranks and faces being cut at any moment. He's a nice guy, but he's a real techno nerd.
And see, that I don't recall ever coming up either in the book.
Right?
I'm like, come on, man. Dial tone was cool.
Yes,
why you do him like that?
Yeah, I don't recall that. So,
yeah.
But yeah, they go into the Cobras. They talk about the new Dreadnoks, Monkey Wrench, and Thrasher, and the Bats, of course. And they mentioned Buzz Dixon, who I've interviewed for the show in the past. And yeah, they talk a little about Sunbow. And again, the last paragraph here is what will happen to G.I. Joe and Cobra on television in 1987. Changes, Buzz Dixon said. Expect Cobra to be dramatically restructured. It will not resemble the Cobra of before. There will be big changes of G.I. Joe. The Rawhides and Renegades will be introduced and will play a big part. No, they were introduced.
Who were the Rawhides?
That was I want to say that was in the G.I. Joe movie. That was the new group that Falcon got kicked over to.
Oh, okay.
With Big Boa and not Big Boa, with Big Lob and Tunnel Rat and all the new Joes.
Okay.
I think they were the Rawhides, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. So yeah, they weren't introduced until the movie. So
I definitely got the feeling that everything he was talking about in that paragraph was tied to the movie. He was talking about big changes at Cobra, which I thought he's probably talking about Cobra Law and how they'll never look the same.
Pentor.
Oh, okay.
He was talking about big changes and to be dramatically restructured. I was saying more Spencer taking over, but now that you mention it, that does very much could be Cobra Law.
You may be right too, but yeah, it was definitely interesting to read it in the perspective of 1986 when it was written.
Right. Very much so. Kevin, did you read this? Do you have any other thoughts on this article about the Joes on television?
It was really cool. I feel like it was very descriptive of letting you know, because what I liked about the yearbook is this was a great entry point for new readers.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was asking Jared about how, like, why was there no ads in this, and like this Joe's on television was like, Hasbro was like, hey, maybe we'll flip you a check if you let us do this. It also is like, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should be watching this TV series as well.
Yes.
So it's great advertising for that, but it's like, the story itself is great. If you pick this up for the first time, it's like, oh man, it's all panels. There's no dialogue. This is awesome. But then it's just a wonderful ad for the television series. And it's very descriptive. Even if you're going like, why is Mainframe or why is Dial Tone such a nerd? I got to watch this to know why, and it's kind of funny because like, I almost kind of wish I had read this before I started, watching a lot of the cartoons that we do for the regular show,
right?
Because it gives a little background behind these things, and then also for what's to come as well.
And like I say, we haven't gotten up to this point in the cartoons on the show yet. We're probably about a year behind as far as that goes. So we'll get to this point here probably the next year, I think, because there was 54 episodes or 55 episodes, I want to say, and we're up in the 40s.
At least the next decade.
So yeah, sometime around there, something like that. But and Dave, did you read this?
Yes, I did. No, I
Or-
was. I think you guys have covered it. The only thing I meant to say was there not some mention in there with Buzz Dixon saying that there was going to be a mysterious organization behind Cobra. I thought he mentioned something along those lines, like a teaser. And I wondered, as you guys were talking, if he's referencing what might be the first concepts of Cobra Law from the movie.
I believe so. That's my
Yeah.
thoughts.
It is always interesting when you come back in 2024, like so long afterwards, and you read something where they're talking about a new season rollout, and obviously you know exactly how it all played out. It's always interesting to get that. You sort of see how they're talking about stuff, and then you know how it's come out. So, it was interesting. I thought I read the whole thing. I thought it was unlike the next thing. I couldn't make it through that massive summary of like stuff. I started. I was like, oh, sorry, I just don't have the bandwidth for this. And like I made it through like 2 pages of the recap, and I was like, yeah, no, sorry, no. This is it's like a school homework project.
And when I talked to Buzz previously for my show, I know he had said he had different plans for the organization behind Cobra, and Hasbro kind of nixed that because they wanted, I guess he had a couple ideas and he pitched them, and Hasbro said yes. He's like, no, these are like 2 or 3 separate ideas. No, do them all. And so that's kind of where Cobra Law came from. So I think Buzz behind the scenes of the cartoon had different plans, but yeah.
And I've got another question. I've got another question. So I wonder, it just seems weird to me that they would only do 2 seasons. Like, I wonder if he thought it would go longer. I know they're big seasons, but you know what I mean? Like,
I talked with Buzz about that. As far as he was aware, they were going to do the 3rd season with them, but then behind the scenes had issues, and I think partly budget and partly just shakeups at Hasbro, and they wanted to change from Sunbow to
okay. Was he involved with Deke as well, or was he not involved? Do you know?
If I recall, he wasn't involved with the Deke portion of it.
Okay,
I say they thought after the movie they were going to come back and do the 3rd season and continue on. And like, if I'm not mistaken, I have to re-listen to that episode. It was a Bravo team here a while back, or maybe it was in the regular show. I forget now when I released it. But yeah, if I remember right, he thought they were going to come back, and it was like a last minute. Oh, by the way, we're moving everything, and that's why they don't have a lot of the same voice actors. They made a lot of changes.
Yeah,
because behind the scenes, Hasbro came over and said, you know what? We're moving this over to Deke, which had it costs less to do the shows.
Yeah.
And again, I still haven't watched those. I've got them on DVD. I haven't watched them yet because I'm waiting until we get there on the actual show. And from what I hear from people, it may be the right choice, but we'll see.
Oh yeah, you hear that the first one is worth watching, the Operation Dragonfire, but after that,
that's the one I've actually seen because I watched that one, and then it wasn't on air for a while, and I thought they'd dropped the show, and because it came out in '89. And that's when I started moving, and things got lost, and I lost track of the show. And I don't know if they didn't air in my area or I just didn't catch it.
If you had to put a year on it, I mean, you guys were around. Like, what year did the heat go off G.I. Joe in the States? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was so hot, red hot in '87. When did the heat actually go off?
Mid-90s.
Oh, so it wasn't until then. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's because I think the core audience, and I hear the same story all the time, and I don't know, maybe Jared, you can get this, but a lot of us that were growing up with G.I. Joe when it was the biggest, we're getting older. We were getting into other things, I was chasing in girls and playing in bands, and and there was a younger generation, and when the costumes got more neon and brighter, and the villains and situations got a little more sillier, even though I love returning to them now. I think it lost its core audience as we just got into, puberty, and just got older. Other things. And I think the '90s with all the other influences and stuff like that, I think that it was tough for them to kind of keep that momentum going. I'm only speculating, but with other fans of mine that are around my same age, minus 5-10 years, are kind of saying the same thing. They got into other interests.
Sure.
See, and I thought maybe it was more the earlier '90s late 89, 90 was when it started to lose some of the heat, I would think. And again, that's kind of when they switched over to, as Kevin was saying, the brighter colors, the neon, the slime, and all that other stuff. Because again, the Turtles came out in 89, I want to say.
Yeah, the Turtles really.
And everything, He-Man, G.I. Joe, a lot of that was, the Turtles are doing really good. Let's switch over more to the more neon, more fantastic stuff.
Yeah,
neon colors and slime and eco warriors and
And that's where they lost me. But
sure.
Any other thoughts on that question, Jared? About when it got lost?
No, I was thinking the same thing as you. It's like there's always something that knocks off the big boy. Like the big boy was Star Wars, and it got knocked off by like Joe, He-Man, Transformers, and then that got knocked off by Turtles. And then I think about mid to late '90s, Power Rangers knocked off Turtles. But Turtles, man. Turtles is like Scooby Doo. It always comes back with a new version.
Big Turtles fan here. Big Turtles fan.
Me too.
I remember at a GI Joe conventions, we were asking Larry and was it Ron Dutant? Forgetting his last name. A lot of the guys that worked in the marketing were there at that convention, and they said it was Turtles changed everything for them. They had to reevaluate their marketing. They had to look at how they were packaging things, how they were telling the stories. Turtles just changed the game.
Yeah. And I'm betting it was Ron Rudat.
Yes, thank you. Yep.
So again, that's the Joe's on cartoon. Just 1 second. Now we're going to look at some of this issue had some pinups, as we mentioned previously.
Oh yeah.
What I'm going to do is, I didn't think to pull these off into a spreadsheet or anything, but I am going to real quick. Those at home, please bear with me while that's not what I want. There we are. So what I'm going to do is, hopefully this works right. I am going to present, share my screen. And Kevin's got it up, but I want to. Here we are. Can you guys see that? I've got one of the first pin up in there, which is Lady J.
Don't see anything on my end.
So I'm going to check on YouTube real quick. Sorry, bear with me, everyone at home listening.
Sure.
And it's not.
Click on the tab that you want to share on the tab itself.
Well, I was watching. I had the CBR print of it pulled up, so we'll just have to do it this way then.
Sure. So I'm happy to open up comic right
thank
here.
You, sir. You'll go back one page,
real
quick. There's the Lady J pin up.
Lady J.
Lady
J.
Oh,
great artist right there. Right? Great job on that.
Lady J available on shelves right now.
Yes, Jared, in your reprint book there, does it include all this extra stuff, or is it just a story?
Well, it's funny that you should ask because Kev's holding that up. I have all the pinup posters. I don't have the cover gallery.
Really?
The cover gallery is not in the reprint.
Did you have the Joes on television?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That's
my reprint didn't include the cover gallery either, but it did have all the other stuff.
Okay. And you guys got the mini story with the Serpentor?
Yes. That's after this.
Right. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, so it's in a different order in my book. It goes mini story and then it goes pinups and that's it.
Yeah, no, you got some pinups here. It's got the cover gallery again, which shows some very nice covers. It doesn't have
all that stuff he's showing right now is not in the reprint.
Interesting. I'm going to keep showing them here on the screen. And it's basically giving a summary of the highlights of all of the comic covers that showed previously.
And I can imagine them not having that in the collection because they've actually covered that in the collection itself. So I can see them in the pages for that.
Imagine being a new reader to G.I. Joe and getting this wonderful summary of all the comics that you did not pick up, and you're getting all these major highlights of all of those comics that they showed the cover to. And, these are just taking you back to these awesome stories that they were showcasing.
It is cool, but I tell you what, when I tried to read it, my eyes just glazed over. I was like, this is just too hard. Like, it's too much information. It's too late at night. But if you were a kid who hadn't bought them, it would be invaluable,
Oh, no, definitely. Like I said, I picked this up for when I started collecting the series, so I missed a lot of these earlier stories at this time. I came back and picked them up.
No, then it would be very helpful.
This was very interesting to read all this, and then when I actually bought the issues, they actually read this actual stories. Yeah, it made it much more interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
It ends with the train blowing up and we finding out that Flint wasn't actually there. So
it's pretty extensive. I see why you kind of glazed over this if you've already read it. I mean, this is like a good 10 or 12 pages recap of all the previous issues here. And then actually, well, I did find one ad. There you go. It's the Marvel Comics ad right there. Get all your adventures each month in Transformers and G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Transformers.
And then it gets to the other story, which we'll get into.
So yeah, we heard from Dave on the thoughts on the recap. Kevin, what are your thoughts on the recap? Did you like that?
Well, I was with Dave. I just kind of glossed over it because I was familiar with it. But what I found interesting was what they decided to highlight. And I was trying to remember like some of the important stuff that they didn't highlight, and there really wasn't anything glaring. But again, I just want to show you, this is the comics that they were, showing you what happened during these, pivotal times and the important things that happened in these issues. Guys, I love this gallery of the covers because it takes me back to some of these episodes that we were recording with you, Aaron, and talking about the covers.
Oh yeah.
And and there's also the good pin up there of Serpentor, which I think is a great shot there. But yeah, obviously this is stuff that we've recently been over and been podcasting about. But I go back to the new readers that this is what these yearbooks were probably really good for. And I'm sure a comic, you got the comic book guys, in their store going, well, why don't you go back and get that yearbook? That'll get you caught up. And, and then you can go back and get the back issues, go over there and get the back issues if you want to. Otherwise, get caught up on the story with this right here. So, yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, this was when they started coming out with the digests. And again, that's how I read a lot of the earlier stories was through the digest, which had like 2 issues.
The little mini comic books, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I read a lot of the earlier stuff. Where I actually bought the issues. I had a bunch
of
those.
Those are hard to find nowadays, especially in good condition.
Yeah. I wish I
have all 12 of them, and they're all signed by Larry Hama.
Oh.
Oh,
I've got the first. I've got the first.
Is Larry in your basement there? Is he there in the dark somewhere behind you?
Yeah, you shut up.
So you said this wasn't included with the trade you have there. Do you have the actual issue?
I'm sorry?
Do you have the actual issue or no?
I do not own the actual issue. I don't know that I've ever owned the actual issue. Oh. I read it somewhere as a child, but yeah. This is why this episode is really fun to me. It's kind of new to me. I know I've read it back in the day, but it's like a flood of memories,
So again, I won't ask what you thought about it then because it's been well. But I do like how this recap ends with Scarlet saying, basically they're not going to stop until they get them back or whatever, and this is business which is taken care of in this very issue of Yearbook.
Yeah.
Nice. Loyal Joe fans, don't forget to look for G.I. Joe Special Missions, G.I. Joe and the Transformers, and G.I. Joe Order of Battle on sale even as you read this. Because like we said before, this was the highlight. This was the era of G.I. Joe because you had the digest, which was reprinting them. They had the, as it mentions here, the Special Missions, Transformers, Order of Battle, all this coming out in this same time frame. So it was
a sizable portion of many a kid's allowance.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yes.
And again, I'm having a problem trying to cover this all on my shows because I'm trying to get it all covered in real time, as it were. But yeah, there's too much to cover on two shows. So
you just got to quit your job, Aaron, and go full time on this, man. I bet you're making so much money.
I'm telling you, yeah. Yeah. There was the subscription for G.I. Joe and Transformers. So I don't know if it was necessarily an ad per se, because it was just for the 2 books.
What'd you pay for that back then? How much? What's it say on the ad?
The $7.75
for both.
Why books? Are you holding the cover back like that?
I knew it was coming.
It's rolled. It's not folded.
So what
$7.75 for 2 titles for a year?
No, it's $7.75 for each title.
Oh, okay. That's Brad.
And that covers you for a year in each, yeah?
Yeah. So yeah, if you want both of them, it'd be $14.50 and a half for both titles.
I just say, Dad, hand me a 20. Come on.
There you go.
Let's get this party rolling.
Oh, plus let me see. She goes currency. Oh, outside the US add $2 per title.
Yeah.
So
we're getting screwed even back in the 80s. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, you guys are always getting screwed outside the US. And then the end, well, it doesn't necessarily end, but the last story in here is just a couple of page story about Serpentor having dinner with Dr. Mindbender, and the Dreadnoks are serving them dinner. They're in the new Imperial Dining Suite on Cobra Island. This story was written by Larry Hama. Art was by Mike Zeck and Dennis Janke.
I'm sorry, it was by who?
The art?
Zeck.
I enjoyed this story actually for what it is.
And the colorist was Janet Jack.
You got that right.
Janet Jackson. I had to read
I was waiting for you to come up on that one.
She took a break from recording albums to quickly,
I'm sure it was a different Janet Jackson than Miss Nasty, but
well, coloring takes a lot of focus and control.
Wow, hey,
very nice.
Back.
My dinner.
Well played, Jared. Well played.
And basically, the Dreadnoks are serving Serpentor and Mindbender dinner. They've got them grape soda, chocolate-covered donuts, and little pizzas. And Mindbender gets let me pull this up on Kevin. And Mindbender gets upset that the Dreadnoks dare serve the great Serpentor pizzas. He's a great emperor. He should deserve more. And Serpentor really regales us with a tale about a little incident at the Roman siege of Algea during the Galaic campaigns. It was the year 52 BC by our present reckoning. And they go on telling a little story about how one of the guys there took some bread and a little oil, crushed olives, some cheese, even the stale kind of rinds will do.
I think I see pepperoni. I'm just saying.
Yep. And toast over the fire. And how, they had pizza to help them win that campaign, to feed them. And I love, and Mindbender's like, wait a minute. Are you telling me that the invention of the pizza led to the downfall of the whatever in the domination of was now France and Belgium? No, of course not. It was just a random memory.
And I love the fact that this dude right here is eating pizza right there. Look at
that. Yeah, he is. It's just like my boy Kevin this morning.
Exactly.
Yes. I've got to be honest. I enjoyed this because you know why? Because I thought it was it's a throwaway, but it's a fun throwaway because it shows isn't Julius Caesar one of the personalities of Serpentor?
Yep.
So Julius Caesar who conquered Gaul, which is what this was. I just think it's fun. And also you see a different side of Serpentor than just the crazy side that you think of, like the, shaking his fist, kind of nuts, like megalomania. It's kind of more him with the troops. I enjoyed this story.
Yes, in the comics, I think they always played that a little down a little bit. And the cartoons always played up more of the just like command, where here he was more of a leader and got the shit.
This begs a question. I need to ask you guys this because as you guys know, I'm with the finest G.I. Joe costume group, and I've seen some wonderful fellow finest members and both male and female do Serpentors or versions of Serpentor. And he's got that cool headpiece with the snake and stuff like that. I gotta ask though, have we ever seen Serpentor after he's become Serpentor dress more casually? Now, I know that kind of sounds funny when you ask it, but I'm thinking is there a business suit version of Serpentor, and what would he look like? Because wearing that headpiece all the time has got to get a little cumbersome. Trust me, I know, because I wear costumes all the time.
Yeah, I would say in the more the era where Chuck Dixon and Mike Costa were doing it, Serpentor was kind of reimagined, kind of more as a cult leader in comics, if I'm remembering correctly. So he wasn't.
Jared, is that the one you guys covered, or
say again?
Was that the series you guys covered? What series did you guys cover?
We did the Devil's Due run.
Okay.
Yeah, this is after that, so it's the Cobra.
Remind me, was Serpentor in the Devil's Due run?
He was, and he was more like this. He was more of the strategic leader.
Was he dressed with the big Serpentor helmet and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think he was, and it's funny because when you mentioned him being more casual, I had this feeling that somewhere in our IDW run that he was that way, but I'm gonna have to go back and look.
The reason why I asked, and Dave, this is your fault because you bring up a good reminder of all of the concept of Serpentor for me has always been fascinating. But the presentation of Serpentor is something I've never quite sat well with, because I would have loved to have seen a version of Serpentor with these memories of Julius Caesar and all these other, famous leaders and conquerors that they have taken his DNA from, and been able to use these memories from all these people. Because, I think I'm getting flashbacks to all of the Highlander movies and the Highlander TV series, where they look back and they part of the cool thing about those series is flashbacks. But I would love to have seen some type of movie or presentation of just Serpentor, not always wearing the outfit, but maybe during times where he's like leading the men or whatever it is. Yeah. But then like you have a flashback when he was that character, and then it ties back. Then he ties back into something. And I would like to see a more, current day version of Serpentor, of him not always walking around with his outfit, but like just being put into other situations to where he has these memories, he has these tactics that he can use too. If someone were to take that and run with it and have a more realistic take on him being a clone of all these characters, would just be a really cool story.
Totally agree. And that's a big part of why I like this little throwaway, because of exactly that.
Yeah.
He reminds me a bit of Ra's al Ghul, the DC character, because like he's been around so long. And with Russ, they do play with that sometimes, and it's interesting. There've been storylines where they sort of allude to the fact he may have been Napoleon or Napoleon's right-hand man, etc.
Yeah,
I agree. I think it's a good idea.
Jared, you had a thought?
The second he puts that snake head on, it sort of confines his image to me.
Yeah,
he's just the crazy guy with a snake head. But there's a bit more depth to him, as shown here in this pizza story.
Yes. I think you definitely get more of what you're looking for there, Kevin, with the Devil's Due run. I always felt like that was more what you're looking for. He's a bit more like he is here in this.
Yeah, cool.
Is there any Baroness in lingerie in Devil's Due? Let's just clarify that.
Plenty of Baroness. I'm not sure about the lingerie thing.
That's the only reason.
Missed opportunity.
Jared, did you read this story or not? With your
Well, I actually did read it, and I was definitely going to bring up the Janet Jackson colorist thing, but you found it, and it's still funny. The thing that just blew me away more than any of this is we've talked about it being a backup story, or if you want to use the term throwaway story, right? That's fine too. But it's completely penciled by Mike Zeck. I'm like, they got Mike Zeck to actually do a backup, which is weird because your A-list guys don't normally do your backup stories.
True, actually. Normally, it's the guys who do it. You're like, oh wow,
just a guy who needed hey, we need just 5 pages. Do your best, and you can tell that this is rushed Zeck, or it's Dennis Janke, who's inked Zeck before, but it's not Beatty. Beatty and Zeck are a little bit more polished. But it's still, I just looked at it and went, I can't believe they got him to do a 5-page backstory. And it's so cool. I mean, again, it's not super ornate or anything, but it's really kind of neat and cool. And it got me wondering, like, dang, when was the last time that Zeck did like a full sequential book? And I think the last time he did a full sequential book was, I think he did 2 issues during the Devil's Due run that we covered on our podcast.
Okay.
Really?
And I don't know that he's done any full sequential since then, but yeah.
Does he do mostly covers now, or is he?
Yeah, I mean, about this time in the 80s, because he kind of hit his big stride on Captain America, and then he got the Punisher book, and then he started doing these Joe covers, and I think he's kind of moved into more of a cover artist from there on in. I'm sure he did. I mean, I'm sure there's listeners out there that are screaming at me, oh, you forgot about this. But like, these are the highlights I remember. And then
did he do the cover of, it's the classic cover of Cap and Wolverine? Is that him?
Yes.
That's a great cover. That's an all-timer,
Yeah,
that's a great cover.
That's incredible. Yeah, if you go up to his booth at the con, you'll see, he has prints of all of his greatest hits, and that one is definitely a hot seller.
Because those kind of guys like him, they can make decent money just doing covers. Like, that there's a reason for that sort of thing. Like, he's such a good artist, though. He did Secret Wars, yeah?
Yes.
I love that so much. That's one of my favorites. Like, I just think he nailed it there,
Yeah, he did that. Boy, there's a story there. A lot of direction from Jim Shooter on that one.
All right.
A lot of people got their feelings hurt during Secret Wars because it was a very demanding book. But hey,
do you think Jim Shooter
good,
deserves? Do you think Jim Shooter deserves more credit for
Yes.
what he's done for the Joe comics?
I think he deserves a ton of credit for not just Joe, but if you go, I'm on my soapbox now. He's a guy who it's easy to hate because he was very dictatorial, and I think the thing that most people hated about him in the industry back in the days, he actually made them stick to deadlines.
Yeah,
but like so, he got this is just Jared's opinion, kind of being in and around these people. I think he got a bad rap in the day for being a hard-nosed guy, but if you go back and you look at the sales numbers, I don't think anybody did as good in the industry for Marvel than Jim Shooter.
What a perfect name to be in a situation like that and to be part of the G.I. Joe world.
Right.
Love it. Jim Shooter. Because I just remember seeing that thing from the first issue of the all of the G.I. Joes, and you see like this mysterious shooter guy, like, who the hell is that? You know, later, you know? He's like, put me in the comic, damn it.
Yeah, I think
make sure it's done by Monday.
Yeah, he definitely had a very bold personality, which I think not a lot of people warmed to. So
no, he was very much he was very much the boss who did not spare anyone's feelings. But he was very effective as well.
Yeah, deadlines were met. Effective. Books got out on time.
Yeah.
The money has never been brighter than I think it's as far as if you go back and look, it's just copies of books sold. Back it was not uncommon to sell 100,000 copies, 150,000 copies of a book back then.
Oh no!
Now comics are bragging if they break like 20,000.
Yeah. And in their defense, it's a different time now, and there's a lot more places for kids to spend their extra money. And
video games really changed the whole thing, didn't they?
Yeah.
Shooter, we can't say Shooter did not have to necessarily go up against video games. He was sort of fading out by the time
he had to go up against Atari.
Yeah.
But so after did you hear their thoughts on this story, Jared? On the My Dinner Serpentor?
I'm sorry, we got caught up in that whole shooter discussion.
We did. I almost forgot about what to go.
Yeah, what the hell were we talking about? Other than I just was amazed that Zach did 5 pages sequential of a backup story, but that it definitely felt like Larry able to flex a little bit of his military historical knowledge, and I just appreciate that.
Yeah, and like Kevin said, I do like that. And this time, like Kevin also said, I wish they would have done this a little bit more in the comic, had some of these flashbacks to Serpentor's previous lives and relating it to current stories, however they work it in. Because that's what I liked about this was the fact that we get a flashback, whether it's true or not, whether it's Serpentor just blowing hot air at Mindbender's cape or whatever it may be. But I do like that we get this flashback story of how Serpentor was there when pizza was first created and all that. So
I kind of want to join Cobra now. It doesn't seem Serpentor's not so bad. Like you have pizza.
I tell you what, I wish if anyone from Skybound listens to this show, reach out because I believe I could write at least. I'll commit to 36 issues, 3 years of a Serpentor book where all it is him going back to a military memory, which somehow applies to a decision he makes in modern times at Cobra.
I would love to contribute ideas to that.
Yeah,
Jared. If I could help out that, Jared, then I could just see other nerds in 50 years doing a comic, doing a podcast like that, and then they're going to be going Jared, Kevin, Jared, Kevin.
Yes. Call us, Skybound. Jared and Kevin are waiting for that call.
I might be ripping off some Highlander ideas, but there you go.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah, I don't really want to from Skybound offhand, but I do know one of the guys that works for Renegade Studios that does role playing game. He's actually in our role playing game that we're doing, that I'm going to be releasing soon as podcast episodes. Yeah, we stopped gaming because of life back in December or so of last year, and we've started it back up. And one of the guys that works for Renegade that works on the G.I. Joe role playing game is actually playing the game with us. So that's really cool.
That's awesome.
And again, coming soon on the Headcast Network. It's called the Energy.
With all that spare time you've got, Aaron, with all that spare time.
Yes. That's why it's not yet, because I don't have the spare time, but I'm playing the game, I'm recording. I just got to find time to get them all up edited. But after that story, he says, quickly moving on, because again, I got to have time to edit all this. We had some more pinups. We have the twins, the Xandar and Zorana.
I love them.
Sister.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Because what is the you know that I've sort of only really become super committed over the last couple of years. What's the controversy with the twins? I don't understand. What is the controversy? I feel like I'm missing something. Is there a controversy with the twins?
You mean the Crips? You mean Tomax and Zaymon, or you're referring to the
No,
brothers?
Zorana and whatever her brother's name is.
I'm not aware of any controversy offhand.
Oh, okay. Because I listened to another podcast, and every time they mention the brother, there's some controversy, but I do not understand. I do not know what it's supposed to be. I mean,
the character himself is supposed to be forgettable. He's complained about that several times, that people forget, when he first showed up.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I love Zorana. It's just, when people reference a controversy, I'm like, can someone tell me what the fucking controversy is? Like,
I haven't heard of any controversy. Kevin, have you heard anything?
I don't know about controversy. I don't know if there. Maybe we'll find out in the comics later. But I was trying to remember if there was some weird continuity change or something, and they were introducing all of these, relatives or so-called relatives to a character that a lot of people like that were more kind of vanilla. I mean, I think Zorana is probably the best character, and I think maybe what the way. I'm sorry, what's the brother's name again? Xandar. I think Xandar came across differently to people and not a positive way. Am I remembering that right, Jared? Do you remember it all?
It's funny that no one can remember Xandar.
yeah.
But this may or may not be real. I don't know of any controversy around Xandar or Zorana, but we did talk on a recently recorded, not yet released G.I. Joe Chronicles on Longbox Crusade about his packaging as a figure changed. The cover art of him changed, and no, it's like no one really knows why. And all they did was like shorten his hair and take a little more of the face makeup off of him.
Okay.
And I was like, we kind of speculated. We were like, did they do, because this was the 80s, did they do that because he looked too much like a girl with makeup and long hair? It was the 80s.
Oh, you know what? Maybe it's something to do with that. Okay, all right.
I don't know. We talked about that a little bit, but we thought that was kind of silly. I mean, the dude still wears a pink ascot, so he wears no shirt.
Yeah. And this is the air that gave this poison.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what Pat said on our recording. He's like, it's glam rock era, so why would this be weird?
Well, at this time, I still am, but I was more into like rap music. But my best friend, his brother, was into rock and all that, and we were camping one time.
Tread lightly. You're talking to the guy that hosts a hair metal podcast on our network. So
it's nothing bad.
Be careful.
My friend's brother was heavy into rock and all that, and he had one of the Poison's CDs with him.
Sure.
And I hadn't heard of them. I didn't listen to rock or anything.
They look like girls, basically.
Yeah. I picked up the CD case. I'm like, so Larry, who's these chicks?
Yeah.
So what you're saying, where you were kind of turned on?
I'm not saying they were hot. A little hot. I mean, yeah.
That's funny, isn't it?
I had to question my manhood, and
yeah.
Oh no.
The androgyny of the hair metal bands was a thing that was going on, and it was starting to, you could say David Bowie started it in the 70s, but it was really like Motley Crue that was starting it in the early 80s, and then it kind of caught on because MTV latched onto it as well. But yeah, sure. Back to Xandar, like maybe he was having an image issue.
Yeah, I don't know, it's weird. But again, I don't have my ear to the fans. I know Kevin's more.
You're too busy on the streets with your hippity hop.
With his hips and his hops.
Yes.
Aaron's down there in the corner slinging a few beats.
Back in the day, back in the day. But yeah, I know Kevin with he's more at the conventions and all the cosplay and all that. So he would probably, him or Jared would probably be the ones that would know more about any controversy. But
I got nothing on that,
So
I will say Zorana's one of my all-time favorite characters. Love her. She's awesome.
Oh, yeah, no, she's great.
Yeah.
One of my favorite classifieds as well.
I dig Xandar too. I think they make a great
cool
duo.
Too. Yeah, they are the twins. Yeah.
At least brother and sister. I don't know if they're.
I don't know if
twins.
I don't think they're twins. I said twins accidentally, but
Oh, you know what? Then that might be the controversy. The twins or not. That might be it. Okay, because
Okay.
yeah, that might actually. There you go. That might be it. That it's a controversy
if
whether
it's
they're
bad.
twins or just brother and sister. Not much of a
Okay.
controversy.
I did a Google search. I was asking, Xandar controversy, and
Yeah.
there is a question here. First thing that pops up is why. Well, how they say Zartan here, but they mentioned Xandar regarding his what was it, his figure. Xandar could have the opportunity to rebel against his family and form his own faction. I don't know if that was an issue with readers or whatever. That's on histank.com. So
I was looking at that too.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I think the controversy, as much as it isn't much of a one, is whether they're twins or not. Because that's what they always say, twins, and then they always say controversy. And I'm like, what's the controversy? It might be, are they twins or not?
Oh, okay.
As in,
Yeah,
someone
I've heard
out there once
twins.
said they were twins. And
But yeah, usually the twins refers to Tomax and Zaymont because they
yeah,
are.
okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at some pictures of the Xandar figures, and I could see where people were like, yeah, I think that fell into the mid 90s too, where I was saying people were kind of like, and there's some questionable choices on some of his outfits here.
I mean, I wouldn't wear it. Maybe if I had the body that he has. but hey.
True, yeah.
And don't forget, like, the thing with Xandar is no one remembers who he is or anything, so he can wear whatever he wants.
Yeah, wear what
There
you
you
want.
go.
He was like, people are going to remember me, dang it. I'm going pink ascot and red body paint.
It says his
Yeah.
accessories is he carried a spear gun and had a pack of spears on his back. Does that sound familiar? Lady J.
Yeah. And that's
Speaking of which, there's pinups.
yes, there's pinups. We're getting off track again. Which happens in this anyway.
Yeah.
So we're looking at then they have the Dreadnoks. We go make you full page, Kevin.
Yeah, there you go. There's Zaranda and Xandar right there.
Yep.
I think Xandar looking pretty badass, if you ask me. Look at his
I
spear
agree, yeah.
gun.
And
It
then
kind of looks
they-
like the G.I Joe laser gun with the spear attachment. I think it's actually pretty cool.
and they
and I
finally announced the Xandar action figure for the classified line.
And
So
then
they-
a good group picture of the 3 original Dreadnoks there. I love that picture.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yes.
I
And
love
then
how,
the
I finally
the
got
last
classified.
the last pin up there, you got awesome picture of Hawk right there. Look at that.
I like how on the Dreadnoks one, Buzzer is like the ultimate guy. Well, you think he's the ultimate guy at protecting his junk until you check out Dr. Mindbender's pinup, and he is the ultimate guy at protecting his junk.
And then the story, the issue ends with a memo from Hawk talking
Which
about
I liked.
the pit is gone forever. Well, maybe not forever. And the Joes are on the move, traveling light and hitting hard. So yeah, we do get the pit later on. Returns.
Do you want me to read it or?
If you want to.
Yeah. So it says, from Hawk to all units, subject G.I. Joe. It's been quite an eventful year, a year of drastic change for both Joes and Cobras. The pit is gone forever, and the Joes are on the move, traveling light and hitting hard. That's good. Lollygagging around in Garrison just makes a soldier soft. We can't afford to be soft. I love the fact that lollygagging was used. Cobra has to contend with new leadership, even though their old leader isn't quite down for the count yet. There's nothing like dissension in the ranks of the foe to warm the heart. We said goodbye to some old friends and welcome some new faces to the team. The names and the faces change, but the team goes on. Enough of this. Let's move out smartly and commence soldiering. Hawk. There you go.
Very nice.
Very much a Christmas message from Hawk, isn't it? Like it almost is a Christmas message, like to wrap the year up. Like,
And I like that they have that memo right next to Hawk's pinup.
Yeah.
Which is not the case in the reprint, which I noticed when Kevin showed his. I was like, oh, it plays so much better with the memo side by side. But
yes.
Not the case in the reprint.
Oh,
that's because they cut out some pages for that book and kind of threw off the pacing of that, I guess. But
yeah,
they made a few bad decisions. Oh well.
Yeah. Can't all be winners, but it's still a fantastic book you got there, Jared. But
right.
So anyways, that was G.I. Joe Yearbook number 3. Kevin, any other thoughts on the yearbook that we haven't captured or talked about or anything you may have missed?
I think we've done a pretty good job talking about it. Of course, had some wonderful tangents there as well.
Yes.
Uh,
We like about was our tangents where we go, talk about other things. So
of the first, I got to tell you, of the first 3 yearbooks, I think this is my favorite of the 3. I'm going to say that. Hot take. There you go. Of course, I do like the hot potato from the first one. You guys remember that one?
yes.
But there just I think that when the Silent issue 21 came out, G.I. Joe did go back to that again. But I think they did it a lot better in this yearbook right here. And I'm sure there was other comics that kind of copied that idea. And you can't go wrong when you throw ninjas, Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, and Scarlet in there along with Baroness in her underwear. It's great. Can't wait till we get to our favorite panel. I wonder what it's going to be. Anyway.
And David, any other thoughts on?
Oh, I think we've covered it pretty well. Very, very strong yearbook issue. Read the whole thing last night. Really enjoyed it. Thoroughly a pleasure. And I put myself, if I was about 10, 11 years old, which I would have been around this time period, if I'd grabbed this off the shelves, I would have absolutely adored it. And I also think, even though I found it, hard to get into, the recap is really helpful if you hadn't read all the issues, which I wouldn't have. So as a yearbook / annual, this is one of the strongest ones I've seen. So it's 10 out of 10 from me, and just fantastic.
Very nice. And Jared, any other thoughts?
When it comes to annuals and yearbooks, they usually frustrate me because usually it's that, as Dave mentioned, it hits your pocketbook. It's $1.50 or $2 for this, and it's usually an inconsequential story or some backup story that they gave to second or third tier creators who are still better than I'll ever be. But you know what I'm saying? I usually view them as a waste of money. I can count on one hand probably the amount of times I thought an annual was worth every penny. And this right here is this, and Justice League International Annual number 2 are probably the 2 best annuals I've ever read.
Cool. Very nice. And yeah, like we've said, we talked a lot about this issue. Yeah, it's like I said, it's one that I kind of remember the most because this is when I first got into G.I. Joe. So yeah, like you guys have said, that recap of previous issues helped me out getting into it and made me want to go back and buy the back issues to actually read what happened. So it did its job there. And so, yeah, it's very useful for a newcomer to the book. And yeah, it makes you want to go back and find the old issues. And we get a recap of the TV show in there, or not necessarily a recap, but an upcoming preview of what's coming on up on the TV show and the new characters. So yeah, I love the yearbooks. Sadly, they only did one more before the more recent ones they've got out, but so we got one more yearbook to go on that one. But yeah, so far out of the first 3 yearbooks, this is my favorite. And I'm sure a lot of that is the nostalgic factor. The fact is, the first one I bought out of the yearbooks. But yeah, I think it's fantastic. It's got a story that ties into the main book. I mean, if you're reading the main book and you want to find out how Snake Eye gets free, you got to buy the yearbook. It's not, Jared said, it's not just some throwaway story that it's not going to matter. I know after this, Marvel and DC both started tying their yearbooks together. They would either have, like, Marvel would have groups of stories where they'd group the yearbooks together. Yeah. Or they together, and DC
Acts of Vengeance, that sort of stuff.
Well, that led in the main series, but they would have in the yearbooks, the annuals themselves, they would have like the Avengers, West Coast Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man would have a story. Fantastic Four, this would have a story. It would cross over.
Yeah.
So, was that? Let me ask you guys this, because I didn't, get any annuals from other comics. Was the annuals, obviously they were a popular thing because they kept happening.
Right.
But were they a venue to showcase crossovers, or was there other little niches and things? Yeah. Was there other?
Well, I think DC often had a theme. DC often had a theme, at least in the 90s. They had themes.
I think it changed over the years. It started off more just throwaway stories or inventory stories, things they wanted to get out there.
Yep.
And then, like I say, after like the late 80s and early 90s, especially the 90s, DC would have Armageddon 2001, the Alien Invasion. I forgot the
Invasion, I think it was called
No.
Invasion.
well, Invasion
Where
was
they-
in the book.
Was there something that the
Bloodbath.
annuals were the things that fans looked forward to because they were a double issue, even though you had to pay more money for it? Like, did you feel like you were getting your money's worth?
Again, I can't speak for fans because I didn't really know a lot of people then, but I did. I enjoyed the annuals, and
Yeah, I
for
did.
the most part.
Yeah.
So I look forward
I
to
mean,
them.
I was a big Judge Dredd fan, so 2000 AD, and then they would put out like annuals and specials and winter specials, and look, it was a great way of making you spend more money. But if you're addicted, like I was, you would just get it. You wouldn't even question it, you know.
Yep,
It's
same
like,
here.
sweet, because it was just more content, you know.
Yeah.
They were a bit more. Their stuff was a bit more of the inventory style,
Right.
whereas DC definitely, by the 90s at least, it was
Yes.
kind of like Tales of Dead Earth and stuff. Like, it was cool to get them because they often tied in together. It was kind of, if you were addicted, you'd get them. You know, if you were an addict like we were, you didn't have much choice.
And when your DC had JLA Ape or whatever it was, where they focus on apes type storylines, and Jared remembers that one. I see that grin on his face.
Jail Apes. I remember that.
Oh, that was great. They recently put that out as a trade.
Oh, did they? Right on.
Yeah.
I know I covered Armageddon 2001 on my Head Speaks podcast here a while back. Overall, I enjoyed that. There was some issues with it, but I enjoyed it overall. But yeah, and I like the annuals because I give you an extra story, and especially I say the late 80s, early 90s, where they would tie them together some way. I see Marvel's, a lot of theirs would either, I say one year they just they grouped them together, and this group had a story, this group had a story, and then other ones I know one year they did like they introduced all new characters in the annuals. DC did something similar where they would have
Bloodlines. Bloodlines, I think, was
Bloodlines. That's what I was trying to think of. That's what I was trying to think of. Aliens. Yeah, and sometimes
out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, Bloodlines, Armageddon 2001, they would have like a main story, an issue that would kick it off, that would lead to all the annuals, and then they'd usually have like a second issue, like a follow-up conclusion to the story. So,
yep, they had you where they wanted you, you know.
Oh yeah,
it's summertime. Get an extra couple of dollars out of them.
Yeah,
yeah,
pretty much, yeah.
Definitely. We were loving it as kids. We were loving it. We weren't complaining. It was more like we were just like, yeah, give me more. Yeah, more, like Cookie Monster.
Well, by that point, I was a older teenager, young adult, and I was still, here's my money, you know, so.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Yeah. But I think that's going to do it for this issue. Again, for those out there in YouTube land, if you like what you're watching, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. Get notified. We do this on the 4th Sunday of every month. Usually we look at the main G.I. Joe comic. I'm going to have to try to fit another day in here somewhere where we can talk about for Bravo Team. Because again, right now, as I mentioned on my Facebook page, somehow I got off. So I need to put a hold on the order of battle that I was going to do. And
order a battle.
Special missions, because pretty soon it's going to tie into the main book. So... but yeah, and you can catch me on the Headcast Network, as I always say. It's at facebook.com/Headcast Network. For this show, it's facebook.com/groups/Headcast Network. Also, facebook.com/groups/G.I. Joe. My main webpage I finally got up and running again is headspeaks.com. You can go there. You can click on their link to see Head Speaks, which is my personal thoughts and insanity. Or there's a link on there for the Headcast Network where all my shows are on there. You can listen to it from there.
I'm scared of your personal thoughts, like
sometimes. I'm also on X.
You should get a personal translator, like Jared did.
There you go. That's what I need. There you go. And on Instagram is Headcast Network, X Headcast Network, and also G.I. Joe Royal American Headcast. Check it out. You can send us thoughts to GIJoe@headspeaks.com. Kevin, if people want to hear more about you, where can they go?
You can find me on the socials at Spartan_Phoenix on X and Instagram and Letterbox and Discord and all those. And then also please look up the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube and on Podbean. Please subscribe to our channel, share it out. We've got a bunch of different shows under the Fandom Podcast Network umbrella, including stuff for Star Trek, Star Wars, Highlander, hair metal, Doctor Who. We also got some great movie podcasts like Couch Potato Theater, and one of my favorites, Time Warp, where we look back in an entire year of movies, and it's 12 parts, and we cover each month of each of that year and celebrate all the movies and the pop culture surrounding them. So check us out on the Fandom Podcast Network.
Some great shows there. David, if people want to hear more from you, where can they go?
I feel like I'm slacking compared to you guys. You seem to have the whole pop culture covered, but check out Signal of Doom. And we're available on all the podcast places. I'm on Instagram now, on X, Facebook. I'm easily found, and thank you for having me on, Aaron. Always a pleasure.
Oh, no, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I love talking to you guys. And then we move over to Jared. Oh, Jared, if people hear more about you in the comics you don't read, where can they?
I am.
It's old.
Never. I am at Yard Sale Artist. It's on X, Facebook, Instagram, Skip, Scap, Skabobble, and Kurtster. Those last two are not real.
What the hell? I haven't heard of Kevin's letterbox, but I definitely haven't heard of this one.
Skip, Scap, Skabobble, and Kurtster are two things I just made up. But you can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. And of course, you can hear all my musings, ramblings, anecdotes, skip, scaps, and skabobbles over at the Long Box Crusade, where we have podcasts covering everything you've ever thought of.
Wow. My personal favorite, Action Film Face Off. Definitely give it a shout out. So, yeah.
We love Kevin at Action Film Face Off.
And I do want to recommend Jared's work. I bought some of his prints myself to give out as gifts.
Oh, that looks cool.
It's very nice. The only thing I'm upset with is there's no Hooded Cobra Commander to be bought. But that's
I don't want to offend anybody by drawing Hooded Cobra Commander, Aaron. I got to get him spun up now.
I'm looking to be offended, so I definitely.
Me too. Me too.
There's that original Duke.
That's very.
I got this at Dragon Con which
is next weekend.
Jared.
If you want to see me, come out to Dragon. You going to Dragon Con, Kevin?
There you go.
All right,
Kevin, you going to Dragon Con?
No, I can't. I got an upcoming trip to Australia. I got to make a priority for.
Well, you're coming back to Aussie land, are you?
Yeah. Yep.
You're a well-traveled man, I must say. You're a very well-traveled man.
Well, my wife's from Australia, so there's that. So yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
understand.
I just want to shout out Letterboxd real quick. It's an app I discovered a couple of years ago, and you can keep track of everything that you watch on Letterboxd as well as rating and reviewing. And so I've been have you ever like wish you could remember all the movies that you've watched the previous year?
Right.
Letterboxd is great because I've been keeping track of all the films I've been watching since January 1st, 2024. And I'm going to be doing that through the end of the year. And I keep track of the order that you watch them in. And since I do a lot of movie podcasting, it's a great way to do that. And you can keep track of how many movies you watch in case you're wondering.
I've got a question. Does that include the porn as well or not? Or you don't include that?
Whatever IMDb has, I don't think so. So that's the other letter
secret channel. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
That's Letterboxd with XBO.
Yes,
I thought so. Yeah, okay. No, it was just asking for a friend. That was all.
Sure.
Yeah, right. I use an app called TV Time to keep track of my TV shows and movies.
Sure.
Because I cut the ties of cable and all that, and I stream everything. And
and I post on X every time I'm watching a movie. That's how I keep track of it. I just scroll back and go.
Serialized is a good app for television series. Serialized.
Okay.
Yeah, I recommend TV Time. I like that one because it lets me know when shows are coming out. And because before I was like, okay, where's this at? And when's that coming out? It's hard to keep track. Yeah. And being forgetful, I'd forget things. So that's what I use. I may have to check out the Letterboxd. Sounds interesting. Sounds like it's a lot.
Letterboxd is cool, actually. I don't use it much, but it is very helpful. I should use it more, but I'm just a bad human being, But it is helpful. Yeah.
We have spent the last 2 hours talking about Baroness in a red,
Well, I could spend another 2.
Thank you for grounding us again. Appreciate that, Aaron. Thank you.
Yeah, someone's got to keep it on track somehow. But anyways, so I got Kevin, we got Dave, we got Jared, we covered all that. So I think that's going to do it for this episode. All those out there in YouTube land, both you guys that were watching, I appreciate you guys. feel free, like I say, always leave comments. We'll be back next month, the fourth Sunday of the month. We'll look at probably the next issue of G.I. Joe. And I'm going to try to fit another episode in somewhere so we can start talking about more special missions. And the third Friday of every month, I do my unboxing and review shows where I look at figures and whatever I've bought recently. I just opened up Torch recently. And
he's a good figure. He's a good figure, man.
Oh, yeah, very nice. I
was going to say, Aaron, you know what you should do? Because it sounds like you got so much to catch up on. Just do a 24-hour stream and just knock out shows, just bang, 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 bang. And then you go, I'm done. That's my month's done.
That may be something I may need to look at. You guys free for 24 hours?
Yeah, we come in on the 22nd hour. Aaron's just there guzzling coffee, trying to stay awake. Like, and then this happened. And
I've got cases of Jolt soda sitting next to me for those that remember that from the 80s.
I miss Jolt Cola. You can still find it, but it's tough.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you for out there that's listening and watching, those in YouTube land and those listening to the podcast. I appreciate you guys. I would still do this without you because, again, I enjoy talking, especially about comics, which is kind of odd. Yeah, at home, I don't talk a whole lot unless I'm making a smart-ass comment or saying something, get in trouble. But, yeah, I can talk all day long about comics and other things. And AU Kathy is joining us in the YouTube. Again, I met her over on Jared's shows.
What's up, Kathy?
She said she's been listening, stayed quiet. She uses Letterboxd, TV Time, and her favorite is Tract. Trakt.
I gotta look that up. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate the heads up on that.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I've talked with her over on when I've got some of Jared's shows. She's always over there. So she says, hiya. So, thank you for joining us.
Host over on Longbox. She does our Sherlock Holmes, Jeremy Brett series show.
Wow.
Yeah, great gal. So I haven't actually met her or anything. Yeah, we've talked over.
Is that the Kathy that does the action film Face Off? Nice. Awesome, Kathy.
Yes.
Love your takes. Appreciate you. Yeah.
So join us next month for more G.I. Joe. Until then, remember, knowing is half the battle.
Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe.
I came off mute too slowly. Yo, Joe.
That's fine. And again, editing will fix all this crap. So we'll make it sound good. And we're going to stop here.